everything isn't going to be roses. You will face challenges. You will face setbacks. While life is incredible and the journey that you take, it's fantastic. But you need to learn to, is it a fear of failure? And if it's a fear of failure, let's address that head on. That's called being a human. That's called having emotion.
Antoni Kindler is a Canadian Olympian who was part of the field hockey national team for 15 years and also a serial entrepreneur. If we leave it to chance, if we leave it to, when I'm in the mood, when I have time, when everything is great, it's never going to happen. Here's an Olympian with so much life experience. What helps you when you're not motivated? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pause to Elevate with Dr. Kasim Al-Mashat. I am so geared up and excited to share today's conversation with a Canadian Olympian, Antoni Kindler. Join us today as we explore high performance in life, the mental side of sport that's applicable to all, success in business and life, and wellness, including cold exposure. But first, Antoni, a warm welcome to you to the Pause to Elevate podcast.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. And, there's so many things I'd love to get into your mindset. Being an Olympian, I wonder if we can begin there. Like, what even drives you to be an Olympian? How do you get started with that?
Yeah, I think you don't wake up one day and you say, I'm going to be an Olympian, but the journey goes all the way back to being a kid. And I remember vividly watching TV with my parents and watching the Olympic Games and just seeing how special that was. Whether you were watching Donovan Bailey run the 100-meter, that always for me holds a particular point of importance. But there's just something so inspiring about seeing elite athletes competing against one another and striving for excellence. And so that sort of tied me into sport as a whole. Growing up in Canada, my primary sports were surprisingly not ice hockey.
Yes.
Immigrant parents.
Is that possible for people to hear? Yeah.
Yeah. So ice hockey was a bit of a foreign concept in our household, although we were, diehard Canucks fans.
Yeah.
But I always gravitated towards soccer and basketball, and those were kind of, I was always a good athlete, made a bunch of sort of different teams. But at some point you hit those crossroads between, having to specialize into sports or the high performance or simply, you don't make that next team, whether it's the provincial team or the rep team or whatever. And anyways, I still just loved sport. And I've always thought of life having a bit of a serendipitous sort of way of leading me from one thing to another. And my family, we actually moved to Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
And so I did most of my high school years in Hong Kong, and that's where I got introduced to field hockey. And I immediately found, quite a passion for field hockey. And kind of, that was just began sort of the story of my life in field hockey. So when I returned back to Canada, I kind of got introduced to the community here. It's an amazing community of people. And just things sort of like snowballed from there. But in terms of going from just enjoying sports,
right,
into that Olympic aspirations, I think ultimately it comes down to just desire and mindset. I mean, you're not doing it for financial remuneration. You're not doing it. It really just comes from something deep within, that you have this pursuit of seeing how far you can sort of challenge yourself. Can you overcome obstacles? Chasing this sort of dream that's entirely fickle to some degree, right? You could have an injury, and especially in a team sport, right? You're very much reliant on the people around you. That's something absolutely awesome about team sports, is it's not just about you. It's about sort of building this chemistry and shared belief and being able to rely on one another. When one person's struggling, the other one picks you up. There's something so special about that. And for me, it was just a snowball, right? Where you start feeling these like emotions in sport which you've never felt before. And you're like, wow, this is crazy. This is, it's beyond kind of captivating. It like kind of sucks you in. It's like kind of a bit of almost like a drug, right? Like you're chasing more. You need more, right? And it's just so fun. And when you achieve things that you set out to achieve, even if it's not that ultimate goal, it's so gratifying. And what was actually, when I reflect back on my journey, what was particularly sort of defining from a growth standpoint, it's all the
Mhm.
setbacks, right? And it's how we navigated that
Mm.
as a team and then individually, and how that actually motivates you to jump back on the horse and get going again. And I think,
Mm.
yeah, I think the Olympic mindset really is, fundamentally fundamental to it is just having a resilience, having belief, knowing that it isn't going to be easy,
Right.
and just, yeah, putting your best foot forward and trying to achieve something really, really special.
And it's time for a little pop quiz interruption. I'd like you please to guess what is the percentage of people who are watching the content on this channel who have not subscribed? Are you ready? 97.5% have not subscribed. What? This blew my mind. That means only 2.5% of you have subscribed. Please help me change that. This makes a drastic impact on my capacity to continue sharing this educational content at no cost to you. All you have to do is press that subscribe button. If you have, thank you so much. Please continue sharing it with anyone you think can benefit from this. Thank you so much. There's so many things there already that you shared. I want to unpack a little more. One of them is about setbacks,
Mm-hmm.
and there's something about it's part of the equation rather than, oh, a setback happened, well, I guess this is not for me, or that's it, we're done. And I guess people don't see that. When we watch Olympics, it's just like, oh, amazing, and but there's a lot of like difficult things, a lot of setbacks that can, someone doesn't need to be an Olympian that can benefit from this mindset of, I want to progress in something, and something is not gonna go my way.
Mm-hmm.
Then what?
Yeah.
Right. So I guess, what was that like for you? I guess from an early age, learning that, well, it's just how it is. It's gonna be setbacks, and how do you not let it totally deflate you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think if I throw it all the way back to an early age, I think, my parents instilled in me a mindset where, everything isn't going to be roses, right? You will face
Mm,
challenges, you will face setbacks, and while life is incredible, and the journey that you take, it's fantastic, right? But you need to learn to kind of reflect. You need to take a moment to understand what's happened and constantly try to take a bit of a growth mindset, and a learning.
mm,
Learning has to be fundamental to everything that you do, right?
mm,
And it's kind of almost finding the silver lining or the spin on disappointments. And I think I've really carried on that mindset through to sport,
mm.
and it's something that, as much as athletic ambitions and athletic pursuit are about talent and controllables that are entirely within the athletic space, how much you work out, how much you train, how much you
Right.
prepare your body, others. The mental side of things was probably the part that I struggled with most, and
Mm.
probably was the biggest point of emphasis on the second half of my career. And maybe
Ah,
I'll touch on that briefly, but I
please,
think
yes.
as an 18, 19, 20-year old, you there's a bit of an ignorance is bliss in the sporting context. You just kind of think, hey,
Yes.
look, like, this is amazing, everything's going great, I'm representing Canada, and you don't think about everything else. You think about, okay, I'm
Yeah.
playing my sport, I'm training, this is great, we'll win some, we'll lose, but you're while things are going well, you constantly, you don't take that moment to just appreciate the
Mm.
significance of what you're doing, but also how quickly things can change.
The impermanence of it too.
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
that stage of 18, 19, it's going to change.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so, um, you know, when I think of my career as a whole in sport, it by no means took a linear trajectory to the positive, right?
Mm.
And the nuance in my scenario too is I was a goalkeeper. So you kind of are an individual position within a team sport. So by that I mean, you face a lot of internal demons and kind of internal responsibility where you feel like and I love that. That was something that drew me to being a goalie,
Mm.
was I knew that I could impact the game for the positive or the negative, right?
Mm.
But I knew I also had to shoulder a lot of responsibility, whether
Wow.
whether externally and within the team. Everyone was very supportive, and it's like, no, we win or lose as a team, and that's. But I knew for myself, I had the power, or I guess I had the privilege of
Mm.
impacting outcomes based on my direct performance. If I played unbelievable, I helped our team. If I had a poor day, our team has to really carry me through the day.
No pressure, huh?
Yeah, right. And when you're thinking about the
Yeah.
mental side of things, right? When you start
Wow.
thinking about and reflecting about your job in that way, it can be absolutely debilitating, right? You just put way too much pressure on yourself. And then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, how do I cope with this? How do I, because there's an identification period, right? You
Mm.
identify sort of gravity, significance, whatever. But it's okay. What are the strategies that I implement to not lessen them, but just be at peace with like,
Right,
and
right.
also understand that that's what I wanted. Like ever since I was a kid,
Yeah.
this is exactly where I wanted to be, exactly the feeling that I want to feel. So how come I'm
Mm.
like worried about it now? Like what is it? Is it a
Hmm.
fear of failure? And if it's a fear of failure, let's address that head on. If is it
Mm.
a fear of letting other people down? Yeah, I definitely had that for a
That's
long time.
another big factor for everyone, really. This disappointment, fear of failure.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I it just I think it's over time gaining an overall understanding that you don't need to you know minimize those emotions. I think it's just
Mm.
far better to address them head on and say, yeah, that's normal. That's called being a human. That's called being
Yeah.
empathetic. That's called having emotion. And it's just, okay, how can I channel whatever that is in the most positive way forward to give myself the best chance of success or to put my best foot forward,
Mm.
knowing that it's still entirely unpredictable, right? There's some factors that are outside of my control, but I'm not going to
Right.
let this impact, or inhibit my ability to put my best foot forward.
Hmm. You know how you're saying it? It makes so much sense. So it's not about I will stop having fear of failure
Mm-hmm.
before I proceed. You're not saying that like stop having any fear of failure or stop worrying about disappointment. That's going to be there, but I guess you don't let it weigh you down to a degree where it affects your performance. So kind of working with it, and as you're speaking, yeah, I teach mindfulness and mindfulness based stress reduction, and that comes up often, even of like, okay, how do I stop my thoughts? Well, you can't stop your thoughts. So how do we work with them so they don't spiral? Right. So that's something that comes up all the time. But I'm wondering for you, from age 18, 19 onwards, was there a point where even in, field hockey, now there's like focus on psychology. Now there's like, was there a point you're like, oh, now we're learning all this good stuff? Or did you learn it on your own? I'm just wondering, like,
Yeah.
what was it like then and compared to now? Because I know there's a lot more attention, and a lot of teams have like sports psychologists and
Mm-hmm.
the importance of mind and managing emotions.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you, I guess?
Oddly enough, I mean, we had some sports psych and some there were some sessions that we had,
Mm.
especially leading into when I think back, it was the Pan American Games in 2011. So this was our first opportunity to qualify for the London Olympic Games,
Oh,
and I was still relatively new as a member of the team. Canada's always had a strong pedigree for goalkeeping, so you kind of have to always uphold this. You have an additional responsibility because you're part of this fraternity of goalies in Canada.
yeah, yeah.
You got to keep on to the legacy. And so I was kind of the new kid on the block and trying to just fight for different games. We've have the guy that I ended up competing with throughout my entire career. You know, one of the best goalies in the world for a long time as
Oh,
well. And
wow.
and so there was always this great competition between the two of us, and we definitely push each other to
Mm.
get better. But uh, I as an 18, 19, 20-year old, this sports side of things, and I said it early on, you assume, you kind of take things for granted because it just
Yeah.
comes a bit easy. You believe in yourself, you're a bit of this hot shot, you're
Mhm.
the mental side of things, you're like, it's sport. Like, I love this stuff. This is
Yeah,
great.
yeah. What's the big deal
What's
type
the
of?
big deal? Like, why are we
Yeah, yeah,
sitting in these sessions about breathing and all that stuff? I kind
yeah.
of went over, I kind of glossed over it. And it wasn't until we had the Pan American final against Argentina, and Argentina
Uh
and Canada within the Pan American region, we've always had this fierce rivalry because
huh.
there's one Olympic spot for the Pan American region. And historically, it's usually been Canada against Argentina playing for the gold medal at the Pan Am Games and
Oh,
the
there's a
ticket to the
lot of
Olympics.
tension there.
A lot of tension.
Yeah.
And so there's this, history of rivalry. Anyways, I played in that gold medal match, and we lost. We lost that game. It ended up being 3-1. I think
Mhm.
I should remember that better. But again, yeah. But I'm pretty sure it was 3-1. And I remember after that game, that was the first time I had a genuine, like sympathetic response to just an emotion of like pure, just crushing emotion. And I
Oh,
remember that it was like 2 hours after the game. I, I I had chest pain. I was like, we were all super emotional because again, you've spent 4 years
yeah.
pushing for this goal. And again, as I said, I took a lot of that for granted to some degree, but it was in that reflection right after the match where I was looking at, the older guys on the team, the senior guys that I'd always looked up to, our
Hmm.
leaders, our captains, knowing very well that this was probably their last go around at
Oh,
an Olympics,
so
right?
it's a letdown.
Huge letdown. And you've got
Yeah,
grown men crying and, because again,
yeah.
you've invested so much into this. And it was just in that moment, and I talk about how you feel an additional responsibility as a goalie within a team sport.
Mm,
I just took on it was such a blow. It was such a
wow.
blow. And again, reflecting on my journey in sport as a whole, that was a defining moment for me because that was the very first time where I was like, wow, like, can I endure this kind of heartbreak again? Right. And it wasn't just, 2 hours off, I felt bad. And the next day I woke up. No, this was something that I had to face head on. Did I believe that I was good enough or I could get good enough
Mm,
to overcome, my shortcomings in that match? Like, do I believe that do I have the mental fortitude to be able to win a gold medal? Do I have the mental fortitude to be able to make an Olympic Games? Right.
mm,
And as soon as that starts crossing your mind, you're in trouble, right? Because you're
yeah.
facing you can get super close. You can train amazingly. You can play in meaningless games, fantastic. But when the chips are all on the table, like when you start having a seat of doubt, being like, oh, can I do this? That's a tough one.
Wow. Yeah. So
And
that's when doubt takes over.
totally. And
Yeah.
and I think I tried to gloss over the fact that I had this deep down doubt in myself for a long time. And as a result of that, for the 2 years that followed, 3 years that followed, I struggled with performance. I was up and down. Consistency was
Mm,
not something that was a part of my athletic repertoire at that point.
mhm. Like
Um,
consistency of performance,
yeah, this is
like on
performance.
the day of the game, but but you
On the
had
day of the game, yeah, I
consistent
could try. I
training.
could train great. I could train,
Yeah.
but then when we
Yeah.
had
Yeah. Yeah.
matches, again, whether I wanted to confront it head on or not, it would just float in the background, being like, "Can you do this? Like, are you,
Uh,
And it's so hard when you're telling yourself like, I remember vividly just being in matches, just being like telling these like thoughts, just like go away, just be like
yeah. 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 Yeah.
just focus, like follow the ball, fall. But it's just it's yeah, I think it speaks to kind of what we brushed on early is really taking that time
Mm,
to confront something like that, and whether it's bringing a professional to help you out with that, whether it's talking with your family. I mean, for me,
yeah.
I struggled with finding the right person who could help me through that, and so I relied on family.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
key, and I'm just so grateful that I've always had such supportive family who just listen, right?
Yeah.
Listen, they're not the ones to guide me in terms of like, hey, do this, do that, but they're just there to listen, and just
Mm,
encourage and just say, look, if this is what you really care about, continue on it.
yeah.
But we're going to support you regardless. Like if you feel like this is just not for you, or like this is too much or whatever, we'll support you there too. Just but like being able to just
Mm,
put your thoughts into words and say them out loud carries weight in itself, and it's part of unpacking the period.
this is so healthy. Like in terms of, if I put the hat on myself, like in terms of psychology, this is so healthy to be able to connect to how you feel and what you're thinking, and to have a space when you can share it without being worried. What are they going to think? I know I'm supposed to be the tough Olympian here. I have to pretend to, I can't have any emotions, or I can, there's a lot of like rah out there, and like, hustle and keep pushing, but actually that becomes an obstacle to success when we're not connecting. And this is something you did, like you had space with your family, and anyone listening, it's like whoever you have, you're able to reach out to, connect with, to be heard, to be understood, to express, to work through, because that is so human.
Yeah.
That is so human.
And I will say, I mean, there was definitely period there where I definitely battled, depression to a
Yeah.
to a large extent, simply because, sport and success in sport was such a big part of my identity, right? And
Right.
to not be able to experience success on an individual level was really challenging. And then to know that
Mm,
it's not only that, but it's like you couldn't quite put your finger on what's holding you back. That also made
yeah.
it that much more challenging. You're like, it was just this, yeah, it was really difficult until I started actually talking about it.
Mm,
And what you were saying about, the rah macho thing, yeah, like it wasn't something that I could go to my coaches with. It wasn't,
yeah.
even you didn't want to really even talk to your teammates about it, because again, like you wanted to always project this image of, hey guys, have confidence in me, because it's interesting, the team dynamics in sport.
Yeah.
Player, like a team will play better if they have confidence in their goalkeeper. Like it's a full
Right.
psychological thing,
Right.
but it's when you feel confident in the guys around you, you just focus on yourself and it seems easier. But the moment where you feel like you need to make up for somebody else's deficiencies or what, that's when you yourself play differently and you yourself struggle. So yeah, so it was just this constant battle of, projecting an image but feeling very different inside, and how do you deal with that?
So, there's a couple of things I just want to go back to. And, you're talking about this, identity as well, because you have an identity of being an Olympian. We talked a little couple of minutes ago about like what happens if if you don't create that success, but there's also pressure on you with your teammates as a goalie, and actually in life as well. Like there's pressure we have to perform in life as well. So, and you worked with it by searching or connecting with your family and expressing some of the challenges that helped you with it. So I want to ask you about identity as well, because it's kind of tricky. You got to really believe, and like you want to succeed in something. And what happens when there's a setback, and it affected you, like you talked about, affected you emotionally and mentally. So how do you work with your identity? Okay, if I didn't win, what does that mean about me?
Hmm.
I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone will cope with that slightly differently, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't want my entire identity to be one of an athlete. That was always important to me. And
Mm,
again, that was always, even my parents, way back when, they're just like, look, try to keep as many doors as possible open, because you never know. Your ambitions might change, your interests
yeah.
might change. Like, just position yourself to have as many opportunities as possible. Whether it's with people, whether it's academically, whether it's in whatever. Just
Mhm.
because you just never know how life is, the path life will take.
Right.
I found myself, especially, after that initial setback, failing to qualify for the London Olympics and having kind of, dealing with some of these demons, I guess. I realized that I had totally immersed myself in the life of an amateur athlete. And
Mm,
again, there's some sports where that's entirely the requirement, because you
mhm.
kind of need to live, breathe, train. Field hockey isn't one of those. You do need to try. You do need to apply a lot of time and energy and effort,
Mm.
and we tour, and you need to take care of your body, and you need to watch film and all sorts of
There's a
different things,
lot of
right?
components.
There's a lot of components to it. But again, when I kind of took a step back, I realized, look, it's not in my best interest, even from an athlete's perspective, to just be thinking about field hockey 24/7. I
Mm,
needed something else somewhere else, like, because I could tell that my brain and my mind was like craving something else.
yeah.
And it was actually my close friend and teammate. He introduced me to a field hockey brand that was doing some exciting things in Belgium,
Mm,
and they were the first brand to really try to target younger people and build a bit of excitement. They had some collaborations with Red Bull and Land Rover,
mhm.
and they were doing these co-activations. And all of a sudden, field hockey was being presented in a far different light than the sport that most people in America kind of think about, where it's, oh, my mom and dad play field hockey. It's not the most creative,
Mhm.
exciting sport in the world. Like, yeah, parents grew up, so I'm playing it, I guess.
Right.
Um, but so they were doing something exciting in Europe, and I saw an opportunity to bring the brand over to North America, and that was kind of my first foray into business.
Ah.
And so it was on the heels of that setback on the sporting side where all of a sudden, my background was in kinesiology, it wasn't in business,
Mm,
but it was through this connection through a good friend and teammate. He actually came with me to Belgium, and we sat through meetings and kind of pitched this idea of bringing the brand to North America.
mm,
And I'd done something similar on just personal sponsorship side of things when I was looking for sponsors for equipment as a
mhm.
goalkeeper. Those costs can add up, and so the idea of kind of sitting in a room having to present a pitch deck, so to speak, wasn't
Right.
something that I'd done before. But this was more in the context of a business itself as opposed to just selling myself. And yeah, and that was kind of the first, yeah, that became the start of this journey that I would, that I'm still kind of on in the world of business and all things entrepreneurial. Um, but I all of a sudden now was able to carve out this secondary sort of, yeah, this additional piece to my identity, right? I was an
Right.
athlete, and then the ambitions didn't change, the focus didn't change. If anything, it was refined, right? Because I also, and I've since learned, having kids, right?
Mhm.
Time management is an amazing thing, and until your back's against the wall, and until you have to really evaluate how to get the most out of your day, you don't realize how much time there is in it, right? And I
Right.
thought that I was so busy just being an athlete. I thought there was no way I could fit anything in, and then I put business into it, and I was like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I'm so
How
sloppy.
is that even possible? Yeah.
Right? How does
When you
it?
put kids in there.
And then you put kids into it, and you're like, how's this? Right? And you're constantly able to find these sort of ways of just being more efficient, right? and
Yeah.
and in turn, that just made me, yeah, it made me happier in life, right? It allowed me also to be just more confident in general, where I'm like, okay, like, something maybe isn't going wrong, and or going perfectly in this part of my life, but I still have this to be grateful for. Or I think,
Mm,
and I'm jumping around a bit, but I go to the word gratitude, and being grateful is something that's always been very important in my life. And I think it's
yeah.
been kind of the sentiment that I've tried to go back to in times of difficulty, right? Where
Mm,
it's like, okay, let's confront that there's disappointment here, but let's think about, let's go back to the fundamentals. Like, what are we actually grateful for?
mm.
Like, because from there, I'm now getting out of this like wallow in sorrow, and now I can think
Yes.
more objectively. Okay, disappointment happened. Objectively, how can we deal with this? Because
Mm,
just kind of letting it consume us isn't productive. And productivity is important, right? Like, let's especially in the context of efficiency, and you got a lot of different things going on. You can't just sit there and just be sorry for yourself. Let's think proactively. And in
mm,
sport, proactively means two things: either, it's just not for me, and it's time to just, I don't have the passion for it anymore. Or it's, yeah, this is an uncomfortable feeling. Disappointment sucks. Like, I'm not happy with where we are.
mm.
What am I going to do? What tangible changes can I make to either the way that I approach things, whether it's mentally,
Uh-huh.
physically, whatever, but how can I position myself in the best way so that I don't feel this again? Or even if I do feel it again, I can think back and say, 4 years ago, I was in this moment. I promised myself I would do X, Y, and Z to give myself the best chance of achieving what.
Mm.
But it's still a chance. And I can be at peace looking back and saying, hey, I followed that strategic path. It just didn't work out, but I'm at peace with that because I did
Wow.
it. Like, that was I decided that.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to quickly thank you for stopping by and watching this content. It truly means the world to me that you're interested in creating positive change. I also want to invite you to join our amazing community. I have free events online about mindfulness, mindfulness based stress reduction, laughter, as well as retreats that you can do from the comfort of your own home. And are you ready for this? Self paced program that you can do about mindfulness and stress reduction. So you can join the newsletter below to stay up to date on all these goodies. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and press that button. It really helps me to keep this content going and reach out to more guests. Thank you so much again, and may you continue enjoying watching this episode. You know, there's so many takeaways already from what you're sharing. So I just want to go back to a couple of things. There's something that you're just saying about, okay, my own like your identity wasn't just stuck. You didn't just have to be a goalie to have a successful life moving forever. You can't be a goalie forever. You know what I mean? But and I think a lot of people struggle with that. They have a certain identity, whether it's a certain job position, whether it is a certain title they have. Oh, I need to be a teacher. Or I need to be, you name it. I know, if I'm not a teacher, who am I? And we have this identity, and if we're stuck, and then we want to recreate the past. How do I go back?
Mm,
But your story has moving forward, which means, okay, so what do I do with it right now so I can keep progressing in life? And you actually did something which is this reflecting back, because experience alone is not enough. We can have an experience, but if we don't reflect back to learn from it, and the same thing happens, we're going to repeat what we did before. But for you, what you did, you said, okay, what can I do to learn from it? And if it happens again, what do I do? And how do I move forward now? And you saw business as an opportunity to move forward, to progress, because your mindset is still the same,
mm,
but what you're doing is different. Like you're not right now. That's right. You're not actively training for Olympics or for
right.
Zagoli. Is that right?
Right, you're correct, correct.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
your mindset is still the same, actually, which is high performance. How can I take this next thing in life to the next level? That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Like
And I think
that.
a key part of that, and you mentioned it, is reflection. And it's reflection when things are positive, and it's
Mm,
reflection when things are not going as you had hoped. Because yeah, I want to make it clear that it's not that bad things happen and it's like okay, but we got to just move on, right? Moving on. It's that reflective piece where it's you have to acknowledge what you're feeling, like that's genuine,
mm.
right? So you can't gloss over it, otherwise, undoubtedly you'll end up in that position again.
It will repeat
It'll
because
repeat
nothing was learned.
totally.
I think a lot of people get stuck. Same thing, even in a relationship, like a bit same thing. Well, if we don't reflect and learn and communicate, it's gonna repeat over and over. It's just gotta keep happening. So what helped you, and I guess still helps you reflect? So you have people you talk to, whether it's family, friends. What else helps you reflect? Because this clearly you've taken your life up. You're elevating your life.
Mm.
The name of the podcast, Pause to Elevate. You're pausing
Yeah,
to
yeah.
elevate and elevate. So what helps you pause?
I would say, I mean, there's kind of different tiers to it. Something as simple as when I go to bed with my wife, we'll often kind of mention three things that we're grateful for from the day. Right?
Mm,
Again, it's just grounding back into like simple things that give you happiness, and it also makes you reflect on just your last 24 hours. What were some
mm,
things that happened, and that like quick just overview just allows you to okay, maybe a couple learnings from here, or this
yeah.
didn't go that well, but it's that little check-in. I think today it's so hard to find those moments of pause because we're
Mm,
constantly stimulated, right? Think about it,
yeah.
like the amount of times that I catch myself dropping off my daughter at school, and on the walk back to the car or to my house, I catch myself looking at my phone and I'm browsing the news because I'm like, okay, this is my moment to like check in on the
To
world,
catch up on yeah, yeah.
right?
So
To
Phil.
fill, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, or you see you experience being in an elevator with somebody, and 99% of the time somebody's got the idea of being still and just present in a moment. It's almost now uncomfortable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're like standing next to somebody and you're like, do I say hi? Like I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and we gravitate to our crutch, which is usually the phone. Um, and so I've just, whether it's if I'm doing a run or if I'm just going for a walk or if I'm just at my desk, I like to carve out 5 minutes, 10 minutes of my day to just like think,
Yes.
unstimulated, just allow natural thought. And we'll progress at some point to talking about cold plunging, but that's kind of like a
Yeah.
3 minute sort of part for me, 3 to 5 minutes, where it's like that is for me. That's for me to just
Yeah.
tie into my breathing, to just like experience stillness, a bit of quiet, just be in the moment, and that yeah, that being in a moment, being present. It's you actually need to be actively thinking about it these days, and
Yeah.
intentionally carving it into your day. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. Has to be intentional, because if we leave it to chance, and I share this even with people when I teach mindfulness and meditation, if we leave it to chance, if we leave it to, oh, when I'm in the mood, when I have time,
Mhm.
when everything is great, it's never going to happen. Like it just doesn't happen. Or like any habit, if we leave it to mood, it's just not going to happen. So, before, there's so many things I want to ask you about cold plunges, but before that, I want to just ask you a couple more things about like motivation. So there's a lot of misconception of like I need to feel motivated before I do fill in the blank, whether it's sport, whether it's someone, if it's a project or it's school or cleaning their office or room, whatever it is. So I'm not motivated, so I'm not gonna do it. So, what's your take on that? What has helped you on days that, like, I'm sure you had a lot of days where maybe you weren't fully motivated, but you had to train and you had to, on a business level too. Who wakes up every day feeling 100% motivated? So, I mean, even my business, it's like some days are like, okay, well, here we go.
Yeah.
So, what helps you when you're not motivated?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? Because some of it is just motivation to me isn't something that's I actually think it's like a learned thing, right? Like it's
Mm,
easy to be motivated when things are happy or exciting or whatever, but I do think it takes practice and again it takes intention and learning to learn how to find motivation, especially in those days where you're not feeling motivated.
mm,
And by that, strategy that I've kind of implemented is just finding, micro goals, right?
mm,
And breaking down, yes, you've got this business, you're, I don't know, you're looking to hire somebody or you're looking to, bring a product to market or whatever. That's the macro big picture goal.
mhm,
And there's obviously some days where things aren't going great, but then you're like, okay, if we hammer out these emails, if we manage to advance this one little piece in that 10 minutes of reflection at the end of my day, I'll look
mm.
back and I'll feel a positive emotion. It's kind of creating, it's like manufacturing these positive feedback
Right,
loops, right? Because you might not feel motivated in the moment, but in reflection, that's when you can look back and be like, oh, like you're getting that positive affirmation that, hey, like I didn't feel motivated, but I accomplished something. everybody
mm,
everybody wants to, either feel like they're accomplishing something, they're moving things forward, whether that's socially or in their job, or
yeah.
people crave positivity, right? But it's just very easy to fall into this like lull of negativity and just, you know and I think, not to jump around too much again, but I think
Mm.
social media plays a large part of it too, right?
Yes.
There's this huge life envy, I think. And that's kind of how I've always qualified the term. It's just what I watch,
Yeah.
and the algorithm feeds that too. It's telling me that I'm inadequate
Right.
compared to everyone else. And so you're constantly in this fight of like, is what I'm doing, does it have purpose? Like, I see these people doing these incredible things, whether it's with their
Right.
families or individual. Like, how come I'm not doing that?
And that'll be more valuable when I get there.
Yeah,
There's
yeah. It's
always
it's
when I
just
get
constant.
there.
Totally, totally. And
Yeah.
and yeah, by the time you've gotten there, the algorithms fed you something else that's aspiration. And that's not to say that aspirations aren't positive, right? Like but it has to be done in a constructive way. It can't be from a point of just, I'm not happy with myself,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, and so that's where it comes back to just reflecting on, okay, I acknowledge I'm seeing all this stuff. Sure, this is there's goals, and there's things that I can reach that may be materialistic or not, or
Mm.
whatever, or time. But ultimately, let's focus on small wins, because
Right.
I can derive positive emotion that will then cause me to kind of perpetuate this mindset, and
Mm.
this, and it's like a snowball. You got to start small, and then you wake up the next morning and be like, okay, didn't feel great yesterday, but we got these things done. Okay, what are the other small things that we're going to, and then a week comes by and you're like, wow, I actually achieved quite a lot. Now I'm actually feeling
Yes.
more motivated and better. And you know it's, yeah,
Yes.
kind of a,
So micro goals, so really small steps,
mhm,
because we can get so overwhelmed so easily. Like whatever it might be, it could be cleaning files. It's like, oh, I got to finish all of it. Well, no, just maybe the micro goal is just do 5 minutes of cleanup, or someone wants to start exercise. Okay, just do put on your shoe and go for a 5-minute walk. Do you know what I mean? Like
and
it
it
just, and
sounds
then
so
you feel
silly,
good.
right? Like, and I acknowledge, it sounds very cliche, like just do the little things. I don't,
Yeah.
but it's true, right? If you
Yeah.
actually
Yeah. Yeah.
believe it and you do it, and it becomes a pattern, you genuinely start seeing some progress. And so,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I deal with this quite a bit. I also do one-on-one work in terms of counseling and psychology. And this comes up often as we can't wait until we're motivated. If someone wants to exercise or create change, Let's and I often use, in mindfulness, we gotta acknowledge we're gonna be friends with unmotivated. Okay, we're just gonna say unmotivated me is here, and I'm gonna bring this unmotivated me with me as I put on my shoe and go out for a walk. Like, no problem. Like, it's okay. But there's something about acknowledging this is how it is. It's okay. We're not shoving it down. We're not getting upset at not being motivated, but we're taking action. So we're naming action. I read the other day. I do some running, and I read this thing about running that I don't know who wrote it, but I love how they said it. They said, running, and I thought it's a lot of things in life, is a constant battle between determination and doubt.
Yeah,
And I
totally.
thought, oh my goodness, like, so I go running and somebody's like, I don't know, maybe I've pushed it enough. Maybe that's enough. Let's not go for even more. A full marathon? I don't know. And then and then the next day, like, no, I think I can do it. So there's constant, and I think in life this happens all the time. This doubt. It's a battle between doubt and determination.
Hmm.
And I guess you've been determined.
Yeah, but even in that context, I would say that and I agree with that. I think I take it from the point of view of I've never been a runner,
Yeah, yeah.
so doubt has won that battle, but that's okay, right? I think it's just like just because you know doubts playing a role in inhibiting like one aspect
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're full of doubt, right? And I think that's also
Right.
to like have grace to yourself, right? It's just your emotion, your personality, who you are. It's not in just kind of one brush stroke, right? Like it's just every facet of your life can have pros and cons and positives and negatives and ambitions and not, and that's okay.
Mm.
um and so, yes, I don't identify myself as a runner. I've never won that battle. I've never
Yeah,
battled
yeah.
with running. Like I've always lost, but I've won a lot of other battles, right? And
Yeah.
those have not been just I woke up one day and that's just innate to who I am. I can this is
No.
this is great. No, it's just I've chosen to work on those ones because those fueled my ambitions. Like
Yes.
maybe the big learning from this is innately I'm a doubter in myself. And I've had
Mm.
to apply myself to those aspects of my life where I wanted to really advance. I had to apply myself
Right.
even more. Like maybe that's, but I'm not going to choose to kind of think about that way. I'm going to focus still on kind of the growth, the positive,
Yeah.
these things are, I'm grateful for all of these different things in my life. And that's just going to prop me up and continue to kind of guide me moving forward. And just having, I think also just like one last point on that is just having a bit of an openness to
Mhm.
the journey of what life's going to bring at you, right? There's always going to be negatives, there's always going to be positives, there's always
Yes.
and it's embracing both of those, being just acknowledging them for what they are and allowing yourself the space to feel emotion tied to both of those, and then
Mhm.
working through them, learning from them, and then just understanding that that life will continue to present you with challenges and beautiful
Yes.
moments, and it's just yeah.
I love how you said that because it's like whatever it is, there's going to be doubt, but you choose where you want to work with doubt so you can elevate. This kind of reminded me of a Bruce Lee quote. It's a quote that, as a teen, I used to love Bruce Lee and have, those of you who are not aware of Bruce Lee, he's one of the greatest martial artists, no
Yeah.
longer alive. And I used to watch all his movies and all his books. And he has a quote that I still use in my life, which is turn every stumbling block into a stepping stone.
Mm.
Turn every stumbling block into a stepping stone. And doubt can be a stumbling block. And then I guess we choose from what you're saying is wait, it's going to be there, doubt. Let's choose where you want to take it up a notch and go, okay, doubt, we're going to work now. And because I want to move this dream or this hope or this aim or this vision forward. It's not that I'm only gonna take the goals that have no doubt. Like that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had a goal that had no doubt. Have you had any goals with no doubts? I was like,
No, and I think that's the beauty of having a goal and achieving them. Like they
yeah,
should be innately offer a
difficult. Yeah,
challenge, right?
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
should, because that's kind of part of the gratifying. I will just say one thing that you know I want to emphasize too, that it's not just like out of those moments of doubt and failure where the growth
Yes.
and the learning comes from. like that same approach needs to, and I think that's almost the harder part. It's,
Mm.
it's identifying in moments of, yeah, positive change, or achievement, right? Taking that moment to really think about what got you to there,
Yes.
because there's learning to be had on both sides of the equation. Because if you just blindly, accept achievement for what it is, and just gloss over it and move over it, it's very easy to think that, okay, that should just happen. Like that happens on its own when things work out. But it's like there's so much nuance that comes into it. Like maybe it was just in the sporting context, it literally was a bounce went your way. So there's like a
Mm.
luck aspect, but it wasn't luck that got you there. It was you put yourself in the position
Right.
to experience that luck, right? So like, yeah, don't feel like you got lucky. No, no, your hard work, determination, and all the rest of it put you in that position to experience that. At the same time, acknowledge that it could have bounced the other way. So you had to be prepared for either way that coin flipped. But you were satisfied in that moment because you put yourself in that position to be there
Mm.
with your best foot forward, and you put in the preparation, the time. And that's when I think about, the Olympic journey as a whole. 4-year cycle,
Mm.
complete dedication, goal absolutely uncertain and absolutely up in the air. Relying on a lot of different factors coming together. You need to, if you're going to take on that task, yeah, you need to be, you know, you need to be at peace with the fact that the coin could fall on the wrong side. And
Totally.
and you can't look back at the last 3.5 years as a waste of time. What did you
Right.
learn in that process that's going to help
Right.
you on in life? Because being an Olympian is just, at the end of the day, it's something very special, but it's just a title. Like it's just a,
Right.
it's you sure, you got to compete at the high stage, but I'll say that, I've competed in World Cups where, maybe the quality of the field, like, it was even higher, right? Because it was
Mm.
not in a pandemic year. It was not, right? Like, so yes, it's the epitome of sport, but I'm sure a lot of athletes will say the same thing, where there probably were competitions where they experienced tougher direct competition,
Right.
right? It just happens to be there's something called the Olympic Games, which everyone
Yeah.
aspires to. But right, does that minimize like my athletic achievement or what I learned that's actually truly going to help me in
Mm.
life?
See, that's why you're an Olympian. Like, yeah, right. You're just giving us so many takeaways again. And here is what you're saying. I really appreciate, because it's not just looking at what, okay, the doubts and the challenges and the problems. You're saying take the time to recognize what got you there. Like, it was whatever it is. Like, you set a goal, you worked on it, you had these skills. Like, recognize the things that are going well. And I think we often lean on just what's going wrong. But you're saying, no, no, let's also take time and looking at what's going well. What got you there? It wasn't just pure luck. Like, there is luck, but you did stuff. Like, it's when luck meets preparation. You did a lot of things that, right,
Absolutely.
led you to succeeding. Yeah. So I have this temptation. I want to ask you, like, again, I want to go to this cold plunges, but we didn't talk about your Olympic experience in Rio and Tokyo. So, what would you say, like, some highlights? Like, you've been to both.
Right.
Like, what was it like?
Yeah. So I mean, Rio from a personal level was amazing, because so difference in, so for Olympic Games, maybe I'll roll it back a second. So Olympic Games, you typically, on a field hockey team, you travel with 18 players, two goalies, 16 players. For the
Mhm.
Olympics, because of the athlete village and just kind of the cost associated with everything, oftentimes you have to pare down your team to only 16. And
Mhm.
so typically you'll have 15 players and one goalie, and then you'll bring a second goalie who will be, it's you'll have this separate accreditation which kind of has you as part of the team, but you're not actually, competing on the field, or sitting on the bench. You're there in case of an injury or in case of something.
Ah, so you're not getting time unless there's injury. Is that what
Exactly.
that was the
Exactly. So
Rio?
that
Yeah.
was my role in Rio,
Oh,
which is a
that
very,
sounds painful, because you like, I mean, you don't want
exactly.
anyone to get injured, but you're like, you want to
Totally.
play.
So you're talking about, a very strange mindset to be in,
Yeah,
because you are so close that you are, so close you can taste it. You literally are standing there. You're watching it with your two eyes. You're
but you're not
training
gonna.
with these guys.
Oh.
And this was like your life goal, and yet you're not achieving it. And then you're watching your team play, and you're like, I guess, like, am I hoping for an injury. Like how
Yeah,
crazy,
yeah,
like what an awful,
exactly. You don't want to
these are
get
my
injured,
closest
right?
friends. Like we've been battling together for 4 years, and here I am being like, the ball smokes you in the knees, like meh,
I
like
guess
right.
I
It's like
guess I can
good
come
for
in.
me. Yeah, and it's such a toxic mentality.
Yeah.
Um, so from the athletic side of things, that was probably one of the most challenging experiences of my life,
Mm,
from a sports side of things, because it's just battling that, thinking that I should be the one, and it's so easy to find yourself being resentful, whether it's to coaches, whether it's to
yeah, yeah,
luck, whether it's to whatever. You're just like, yeah, it's that was a definite challenge, and it's it was it was challenging not only for myself, but I know for my close friends and teammates too, because they saw
yeah,
how it was impacting me, and like as any human would, or any friend would, they felt for me, but at the same time they're like, hey, don't stop taking away from my experience here. Like I've got to focus on it.
yeah, yeah.
And so it
That's a
was a
tough
challenging,
spot.
yeah, it was a difficult spot to be in. But when I kind of look at it on the big picture, it allowed me to really immerse myself in the whole Olympic movement, the how incredible the athlete village is, how social everybody was, all the different venues, all the different, it
Mhm.
was such a cool experience, to be walking, to the cafeteria, and you're walking past the people that you've idolized on TV, from,
Oh
like
wow,
Rafael Nadal, or, whoever, right? You're kind of, wow, I'm in
you're
this.
hanging out with the greats.
You're hanging out with the greats,
Yeah,
and you realize that they're just the same kind of as all of us, like just
yeah.
very good at their sport, and just very determined, and they've got these athletic ambitions, and
Mm.
yeah, just, but at the end of the day, they're just really nice regular people, and that was really cool. um and then hopping, I guess it was 5 years later, to Tokyo,
Which is
with the
2020.
pandemic,
Yeah,
right? Tokyo should have been 2020, but we
you're
ended up
right.
having it in 2021.
Right.
um and that was such a different experience, because everyone had masks on, everyone was terrified about getting COVID. We were taking COVID tests every morning, and again, like, getting a false positive did happen from time to time, so you were on eggshells,
Oh,
because
talk about stress, added stress.
yeah, the interesting part too is you're not considered an Olympian unless you step on the field of play. So oftentimes athletes would arrive at the village, a week in advance, 10 days in advance. They'd be training in the facilities. And so everybody, until they got to their first match, especially if this was their first Olympics. So like in my circumstance,
Yeah.
um, you were so terrified that there was going to be some interaction. You were going to get COVID, or you were going to get a positive COVID test, because
Oh boy.
immediately you'd get pulled out of the village. You get put into like a satellite sort of, self-contained area, and you'd have to wait the 2 week period. But the 2 week period was long enough that you'd miss your Olympics. So even if it was a false positive, like there was just such a heightened stress amongst everybody. So that sort of camaraderie,
Wow.
social, networking didn't happen ever, because people were just terrified. And there were cases of COVID in the village. And so that
Mm.
was that was just the reality of the situation.
Wow, I
And
missed
so
out on so like the connecting and being out. So there's a lot of like, okay, you gotta isolate and stay away, and that's a
yeah,
tough time. So added so much mentally too.
yeah, and then from a performance wise too, it wasn't kind of, some countries took a different approach to COVID, right? In Canada, we had the full
Mm.
blown lockdown.
Yeah.
I still remember when we got a special exemption. This was months later, to train just as our group. We were just, I'm driving through downtown Vancouver, where there's no cars on the street. It felt like it was,
Right.
like
It was a little bizarre. Yeah, yeah.
apocalyptic movie kind of thing. It was bizarre. But
Totally.
we were training out at Ambleside and West Van, and you'd have people contacting the local police saying, "Hey, look, there's people coming together and participating in sport." So there was this vigilance, and we had this exception, but there were other teams that just trained as if life was normal, right? And
Mm.
there's some European countries. So then you show up to Tokyo, and we missed out on, not to put excuses, but it's just, and several countries were in the same boat, where you're like, okay, we were prepared for 2020, then we weren't allowed to train for 6 months, and now we're just playing catch up.
Oh
And
wow.
so it created this, we were always going to be, Canada doesn't have the depth of athletes in field hockey as some of the other countries. We always kind of punch well above our weight. um, And,
Mm.
that definitely, at least for me, in terms of my preparation, I found that I'm somebody that needed to be very much at peace with, look, I put in all the work ahead of time.
Right.
So whatever happens, happens. But like I needed to convince myself that I was good enough because my preparation was good enough, was exceptional.
Mm.
And I found that leading into Tokyo and even in Tokyo itself, I was catching myself at night trying to convince myself that I was good enough. And you're here at
Mm.
the Olympics and you
Oh,
have
wow.
doubts in your own performance, right?
Talk about
And
working with
it's
setbacks. Jeez.
yeah, right. And yeah, so again, like it wasn't the perfect experience, but I don't think many people go to the Olympics and have their perfect experience. Those are few and far
Yeah.
between. You go out there, you compete as best you possibly can, um, and yeah, your goal is always to come home with a medal, always to win matches and stuff. But
Yeah.
years removed from that moment, now I'm looking back and be like, look, I kind of lament the fact that I didn't enjoy it enough. Right? Yes, it was a
Mm.
pandemic. It was a strange Olympics, no fans, no,
Yeah.
but I wish I had taken more time there to
Mm.
just be present with what was going on and to
Yeah.
acknowledge the grit, like to be okay with everything that's going on and to just know, yeah, like I prepared as best I could. Now
Yeah.
let's go do our thing. Like you know, so anyways.
See, this is this being okay with how it is. It doesn't mean you had to like it or like, oh, this is great. So there's a certain level of acceptance, which sometimes can be misunderstood. Like, if I accept it, I'm surrendering. But there's just like, this is how it is, and there's a letting go of like, this kind of sucks, and you're reflecting back, saying, oh, you wish you took it in more, enjoyed what was there, and I think that's a great like Olympian mindset, going, okay, here's what I could have done different as well. And I think we can all do that. Let's enjoy what we have right now. It may not be perfect in our life right now. Whose life is perfect right now? We're always wanting, oh, it will be perfect later when I get whatever, when I get this launch, or my kids become this, or I meet someone, or I buy this, whatever. But it's never there. So thank you for naming that. This, let's take in what we have, and even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, I mean, in the context of an Olympics, let's call a spade a spade. It's a little easier to you know wrap your mind around. Hey, things could be better, but we're at the Olympics, so like let's call it. It's pretty
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
pretty amazing. So but thinking about kind of being present in the moment. I mean, I guess in my reflection, I realized that I was just yeah, I was just battling just the mental side of things, just being just putting too much pressure on myself and saying that
Mm,
I had to do X, Y, and Z to achieve Y, right? And as opposed to just being like, look, I put in all the time that I could. There's things that are out of my control.
yeah.
I'm still here. I'm still ready to battle. Like, be comfortable with that. Um, and allow yourself to take in how amazing this opportunity is. Like this
Mm.
is the sad part in it all is this was the moment that I had been dreaming about for all those
Oh,
years,
yes.
and here I am in the moment and not even able to kind of appreciate it, right?
Mm.
And that's not to say that it's like you're putting it on a pedestal or something like that, but it's just acknowledging that, like, wow, we got here.
Yes.
How cool. And that's not to say that just the ultimate goal is just making Olympics. Yes, making Olympics is obviously a big deal,
Yeah.
but you're a competitor. That natural competitive drive doesn't go away because you're like willing to acknowledge that something's good. And I think that's actually something that I've learned as well. It's like,
Oh.
just because just because you've achieved something doesn't mean that, oh, now I'm going to slow down, or like now we're playing with
So
house
maybe
fire.
that's the fear for some people have. It's like, oh, I can't acknowledge. I gotta stay just revved up and just, but you're
Yeah,
missing
and
out.
and I think part of me was thinking that way. Just
Yeah.
like, don't get yourself caught up in the fact that, like, enjoy the moment too much, and like you're still
Yeah.
here to compete and all the rest, and
Yeah.
you kind of lose the balance. Like,
Right.
it's okay. It's okay to feel happiness. It's okay to feel a sense of accomplishment, and that doesn't take away from what got you there, which was an internal drive and an ambition.
Mm.
Right? Like, that doesn't yeah, I think it's just understanding that that doesn't just go out the window because you're willing to give yourself a pat on the back and
Right.
acknowledge, like, hey, something pretty special.
Which actually can help, right? It can have
Totally.
both. Like you can
Totally.
have the drive, the determination, staying focused, and take it in, acknowledge the good, like you're saying. Like we can have both. And when you're stepping back, you're talking about the Olympics. It made me actually rethink. How you said, well, it's an opportunity to be in Olympics. Let's make the most. And if we zoom out for a moment, it's like being alive is an opportunity.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, can we approach life like as if really it's the Olympics of our life? Like that's it. This is our life. That's an opportunity. What are we gonna do with it? Like it really is special to be alive. And
Yeah.
can we approach it the same way?
I know. And again, like I'm always somebody that struggles to kind of talk about that stuff because it seems like when it's voiced, it seems just so like fantastical or just
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
cliche and just like, yeah, of course, take each day for
Yeah,
as the best day of your life. But if you actually break it down and
yeah,
you say like, well, what are we craving in life? Like what's what's getting you out of bed every morning? is it
yeah.
is it is it just wanting to kind of like sulk and be unhappy, or do you feel better about everything in your life when you actually have a bit of ambition, when you have a bit of a goal,
Mm,
when you allow yourself to acknowledge, hey, I did this well yesterday, hey, I had a good sleep, hey, like, I feel well, like little things. And it comes down to just being able to reflect, take time for yourself, not get caught up
mm,
in all the external stuff that's happening in the world and on your phone and the constant stimulation. um, yeah, it's just I think the world could benefit from just everyone taking a moment, right? Just every day,
mm,
just disconnect, just think about yourself, um, and what you and yeah, think about what you're grateful for. What have you achieved? What's
mm,
beautiful in your life, and allow that to be the framework for how you approach your next couple hours, and find some other
mm,
things that are gonna allow you to feel that same kind of endorphin kick, the same sort of happiness, the same, and just see if that snowballs into something positive. And next thing you know, you'll look back and you're like, wow, why was I so like, why was I so like, or just being like, wow, I was upset.
yeah.
Now look where I am.
What an excellence and mindset. Like here's something that we can all take. Anyone listening to this is like, oh, wait a minute. Can you reflect on what went well? What did you do well? Little things in the day. Acknowledge, oh, I'm happy I did this. I'm happy I did. Like acknowledge. And this is not sugarcoating the bad stuff. Saying, no, this is difficult, this is challenging. And I think we need to add more ands in life. Like this was really crappy, or this moment is really difficult. And but I did this. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I really love it how you describe it. So this there's so many things that I still want to ask you, and I know our time is nearing, but I would just, at least for today, I'd love to have you back. But just for today, I want to ask you a couple more things. But now switching to the business side, which can be applied to life, so business and wellness. So here's an Olympian with so much life experience as well, and how do you transition to that?
Yeah. So I guess maybe I'll first touch on kind of what draws me to business as a whole,
Mm,
because I see a lot of parallels between kind of sports and then business, and a lot of what I was saying about how in an Olympic cycle you're committing to X number of years, 4 years for an Olympic cycle, and the end goal is entirely uncertain, right?
right.
All you can do is trust in yourself, trust in your team, and put in a strategy in place that gets you into the best possible position to achieve that ambition, right? In business, especially in startups, it's very similar, right? You're not doing it because you're going to get financially remunerated right off the hop.
Right.
You're not taking in any money, right? You're you're committing and you're believing in an idea or a product or a service, um, and you're
Mhm,
trusting your ability to deliver that, and then see some benefit. I guess in business it would be financial, but
mhm.
in sport it's sort of achievement of the athletic goal. Um, but that's down the track, and I think there's that risk side of things that's quite compelling to me.
Aha.
It's a calculated risk. It's very much firmly rooted in self belief, right? And just
Mm,
knowing that, okay, it's a combination of self belief and belief in what you're trying to deliver to customers, whether again it's a
Mhm.
product or a service. So that's kind of, I think, where I see the similar excitement and drive from an ambition perspective, from the sports context to business context. So that kind of is how I
That
ended up
link.
here. I mean, when I thought about sort of where I'm in my life and sort of what's important to me, the whole side of wellness. I've got two young kids. I'm, several years removed from competitive sport. So now my daily competition is
Mm.
getting my aching body out of bed and being able to,
Yeah.
chase after my kids, right? Like that's the fun in it. And as I think about wanting to be able to do that for as long as possible, I'm starting
Mm.
to think more critically about, life choices and
Yeah.
how I'm making sure that I take that little bit of time for myself to be the best that I can be, both as a father, as a husband, as an entrepreneur, business minded person, or
Yeah.
and I was finding that just with all of life stresses, I wasn't hitting that high performance level that gives me joy, right? And it's
Mm.
right. So, um, my experience with ice baths was purely from a sports recovery standpoint. That's all I knew ice baths or cold plunges to do.
Yeah, it's a tool to help you to keep
Totally.
going. Just so it's a part of your repertoire. Kind
Exactly.
of cold
Exactly.
plunging, ice baths, just to recover. And by the way, there's so many benefits. And if anyone's interested too, I did two podcasts with Jesse Coomer, who's a cold exposure expert. He's got a book on it. The safe way to do cold exposure. So anyway, if anyone's interested, I'll link that
Yeah.
podcast as well.
Yeah. And so I won't go into all that, but
Mm.
it's just, for me personally, I started thinking about cold plunges and just can I, can I derive some benefits that are beyond
Mm.
just recovery, right? Because I don't need to recover. I need the mental, physical, emotional benefits of a bit of just mindfulness and a bit of just like
Mm.
I need to carve out some me time, right? And when I started doing some cold plunging, just purely with that in mind, where it's like, okay, let's focus on breathing. Yeah, focus on just finding a little bit of time to reflect and think and
Yeah.
be present. I caught myself realizing, like, holy smokes, I'm a better I'm far more alert. I'm far more, you know, far less volatile. Yeah, I found that just those couple minutes in the morning where I spend that time to cold plunge, those are the days where I feel, more just more present. I feel less volatile and just
Mhm.
more focused, right? I feel like
Yeah.
I can do better productive work. I feel like I'm, a better dad. I'm more, in my mind, when I think about cold plunging and sort of my experience with it is just, when I wake up in the morning, there's screaming kids, there's all these different, I'm thinking about emails from yesterday. I'm thinking about, okay, what's the direction of business today? I'm thinking about, okay, we got T-ball this afternoon. What are the logistics
Yeah.
of, there's so many different things. Oh, what am I going to pack the kids for lunch? Or, there's just all of this noise,
Yeah.
right? And I think most people can that resonates with most people, right? You're balancing a bajillion different
Yeah.
things, right?
Many things coming at you.
Yeah, and so you have this like constant. It's very very hard to focus on one thing and do it well.
Mm.
And for me, you know, being able to deal with that chaos and just say, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes because that's literally, I'll take off the lid, hop in for my 3 minutes, quick rinse off or whatever, or just put my clothes back on. The whole practice for me takes about like 5 to 6 minutes. I was like, and in those 5 minutes, it's just
Yeah.
I see all that chaos just disappear for that
Mm.
time. And by the time I emerge out of the ice bath, it's, all of a sudden if it's raining, I can feel the raindrops hitting.
Mm.
If there's a wind, I'm like, I can hear and I
You're
know
more present. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sounds like romantic and all this, but I genuinely,
Yeah.
that is the stuff that I pay attention to all of a sudden.
Mm.
Um, And then by the time I step back into real life, which again is the chaos of the morning
Yeah.
and kids, and it's just I seem far more prepared to handle that. Where
Yeah.
it's like, okay, everything just has a bullet point as opposed
Right.
to one giant essay of scrambled thoughts. Um, and so that's and again, cold plunging isn't for everybody. Not
Right.
everyone will feel that way.
Yeah.
there's definitely the research backing behind it, but there's a lot of anecdotal, and that's okay too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So yeah, so this is kind of where we landed.
yeah. It has so many benefits, and it's like you're saying, there isn't one thing that's the magic bullet that would solve everything. But here's something in the repertoire, and it's something that I've been really into myself. This cold plunging. And I just want to say to listeners, how we met was at the BMO Half Marathon, Full Marathon Expo. So those who are not runners or haven't done any half, or typically they have some kind of expo before, and they have like different vendors and different, which is actually I really enjoy. So
Mm.
I get excited about the expo before a half marathon. So I did the half marathon in May this year. And so I was walking around, and then there you are. And I have to say, you're so full of energy. And I was like, but what I saw, I'm like, oh, what is this thing? This is a cold plunge. Oh, it looks different. Oh, oh, it's a little cylindrical. Oh, there's something at the top. What? And then we started talking, and you know, uh, I just want to keep asking you a question right there. There were so many other people, so I just wanted to thank you for your energy and for your love for sharing about cold plunges, because I so enjoyed that conversation. This has been so enjoyable. Like I really want like another hour for sure to keep sharing conversation about. I know, just respect for your time, and I'm wondering anything else that I didn't ask you on me you wanted to share, or anything else before we end.
No, I just appreciate you having me on, and appreciate the conversation. And yeah, I mean, the whole kind of wellness side of things, and kind of the mental health. I think it's especially pertinent today. I think it's life's always had its challenges, and it's always, but I think with social media and the way that we
Mm,
consume information, I think it's very easy to get caught up in just a mindset of being dissatisfied, or just lacking something. And I think it really takes intention, and it takes
mm,
thinking about it to try to reposition, or create, yeah, reframe how you want to move forward in whatever it is that you're seeking to do, whether it's job, whether it's relationships, whether it's whatever it is. So yes,
mm,
while my story is rooted in sport, there's so much, and I'm so grateful to sport, not only for the life experiences that it gave me
mm.
as an athlete, but just how it's truly shaped my mindset, and sort of the way I handle. And again, I'm still learning. Like, by
Yeah,
no
yeah.
means have I got this dialed in. I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
be very clear. I like, this is just like little, and again, saying it is one thing, doing it is a whole nother thing. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that as well. But it really has shaped sort of the way I've thought about things, and the way I've tried
Mm,
to, make changes to my life, make changes to the way that I think, take time, be, um, yeah, allow myself to experience some grace when things are going wrong, like acknowledge
mm.
positive stuff, acknowledge things I've done well, learn, so all that stuff.
Wow. Well, thank you for the mindset of excellence, and truly an Olympian mindset that continue to progress and reach, but also so real, so humble, so human. And I mean, what a beautiful way of speaking about your experience. I really appreciate you, and I want to thank all the listeners for the time listening. If you found this useful, please feel free to share, send it to a friend, to a neighbor, to a colleague, to whoever it is. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It really helps me continue sharing this work. May our moments be filled with ease, and may you be present in as many of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello there, and thank you so much for stopping by this channel. I hope you find this content useful, and if you do, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It will really help me to reach to more people and keep this content going. Here we are journeying together, and let's see where this takes us.